Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Good morning. So as I was preparing to make this video, I was contemplating a lot of different things, coming up with some different ideas. And the thing that God really wanted me to talk a lot about, let's see, that's not the right way to say it. There's something God really wants me to talk about. And one of the things that he told me is that learning to ask the right question, right? So if you're studying a subject and you have a teacher, your learning, right, is determined by a process. You go, you hear material, you study material, you ask questions, you get answers. And sometimes those answers are just given to you, and sometimes you got to go find them. The questions that you ask are more important than the answers. And learning to ask the right questions is what determines what you can learn, how well you learn, how fast you learn. I was talking to my wife, and she was telling me about some of our children's concerns because of the information that I've been talking about. My current viewpoints don't align with my traditional religious views, and learning how to let go of the traditions that I've believed in, or I want to say that, learning to let go of the beliefs in order to accept what God is trying to teach me has been a difficult and painful process for me. So anyways, the subject of the scriptures came up, and about whether or not I believe the scriptures are true. And as I approached God with this thought process about the scriptures, and as I have noticed that there are some issues, there are some discrepancies, there are some there are things in there that just don't mesh with each other. And a lot of religions handle this issue in different ways, but most of the time what you're going to see is people keeping what they like and throwing away the things they don't like. You know, they'll cherry pick those verses that support their views, and then that's what they'll stick with. And when you bring up these other scriptures that don't support their views, well, they'll just rationalize it away. So there are issues, okay, just flat out. And as I have tried to find out what God's opinion is on this, I guess, God responded with, what difference does it make? And it kind of blew me away. And after a moment of stunned silence, he began talking again, and he said, why do you think that you can only learn through nonfiction sources? Why do you think that you can only learn about the world you live in through a history book? And then he said to me that everything, movies, books, paintings, music, pain, suffering, everything is there to help us learn. You could be reading Narnia, You could be reading a book that's completely fictional, and God can teach you. You can you could be at a Metallica concert. I guess they don't do concerts, but you could be at a concert of a group that you would think God wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and God can teach you. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what you're reading, what you're studying. God can use that to instruct you. Now, getting back to how this ties together, the purpose of the scriptures becomes less about understanding some historical document and more about provoking thought, provoking questions. The whole purpose is to get us to ask questions and to think more critically about the world around us. And so it doesn't matter if the scriptures are truth. Even that question bugs God, just telling you right now. Asking whether or not a book is true, what are you asking exactly? Are you asking if the book is historically accurate? Are you asking if any of the stories that are in the book are based upon a true story or are a true story? What exactly are you asking? And the issue becomes that if you are looking at that book in order to discover things that are true, you're using that book for the wrong reason. You're using it for something it was never intended to be used for, according to God. That was never its purpose or why it was created. Heaven is there inspiring people to create content in order to provoke questions, in order to create a path of learning for every single person who lives and ever will live. And so when you recognize that is the purpose, that is the purpose of the scriptures, that is the purpose of the world around us, to provoke us to ask questions, to provoke us to have a emotional response, then it changes why you read it. Why do you read that story? Can you learn something new every single time you read that story? Can you learn something different every time you read that story? So again, the questions become more important than the answers. And as I was thinking about that concept, I remembered this movie that I'd watched. It's been a while, but I really enjoyed the movie. It's called I, Robot. It's got Will Smith in it. And basically, Will Smith is a detective, and he has a friend that dies, and he goes to investigate it, and everybody's just telling him there's not even a reason to investigate it. It's obviously a suicide. Then he demonstrates that it would have been impossible for this guy to commit suicide that way. And he gets this holograph, and the holograph is his friend, kind of basically an AI holograph that's able to answer questions or able to interact with him in his investigation. And as he's going through these different scenes in this movie, he'll pull up that AI and be talking to it, and then it'll say, now that is the right question, and it'll shut down. Are we asking the right questions? In our pursuit of a greater connection to God, are we asking the right questions? And I would be willing to bet if you're struggling spiritually, it's because you're not asking the right question. I'm not going to say you're asking bad questions. I'm not going to say you're asking good questions either. It's not about whether or not the questions are good or bad. It's about whether or not it's the right question at the right time. You could ask a question today and not be able to get an answer because there's other questions you needed to ask first before God could answer the question you asked today. So sometimes you'll ask the same question many times and not get an answer until the last time you ask it. There are certain questions that are going to cause you problems. For example, if you're a parent, you already know that one of the worst questions you can be asked is, why? It is a very annoying question. You tell your kids to do something and they say, why? You know, it doesn't, it's just not one of those questions that's going to benefit anyone. And if you've ever been a parent and your child asks you why, and you answer it because you think it's a genuine question, and they just keep saying why to every single one of your answers, it is somewhat infuriating. And so put God in, I mean, God is the Father. God is the ultimate Father. God is, the ultimate parent. I know how I feel. Is it possible God could feel the same way? And I think the answer is yes. I do think God has the capacity to just say, yeah, I think we're done today. And just, stop answering the whys. Just stop engaging. When we are sincere and not just trying to annoy our parent, when we're truly sincere and want to better understand what is happening, even if we want to know why something is happening, God will answer that question, but we have to be prepared to accept the answer and not just simply keep asking why. And so, in your pursuit of greater spiritual light, greater spiritual knowledge and understanding, just remember, if you're not getting anywhere, try to ask a different question. Thank you all for watching my video. I appreciate you for being here. I love you all, and I want you to have a very blessed day.